athletes are in season, I'm down there coaching in the gym and helping out there. So that's what I do. And then we have Hunter Britt.
All right, hey guys, I'm Hunter Britt. I got to Invictus at the beginning of 2015, so I guess about 5 years now or more. And I just showed up as an athlete to start, and I was coaching CrossFit, and quickly got onto the coaching team, and really started off on our online programs. And currently, right now, I run our 8-week strength cycle. I coach some of our individual athletes, and then I also work with Tino and assist him on the Invictus Athlete Program, where needed, where he leads. So I've been enjoying that for the past 5 years, and that's mostly what I spend my time doing.
And then we have the legend that is Nicole DeHart, or sorry, Nicole Krebs. Nicole DeHart Krebs.
You can go by Nicole DeHart Krebs. Tino, I think I started with Invictus around the same time Tino did, 2010, might have been 2009. Oops, my cat.
It was 9 because you coached a class that I dropped into when I did my level 1 in 2010. Because I remember the high kicks. Nicole walks around the gym. She always gives you. She doesn't say hi or shake. You'd be perfect in COVID because you don't shake people's hands. You give them a high kick.
Just a high kick. That's all
you
you need.
Still do that? Can you still do the high kicks?
Of course.
Are you still flexible enough to do that?
Of course. But I started actually with CrossFit in, I believe it was 2004, right around the time it was online, maybe a year after it started online. So been around CrossFit for a long time. I had our master's program. I physically moved out of San Diego about maybe 5 years ago, 4 or 5 years ago, 4 years ago. So I used to physically coach at Invictus, but now I just manage everything online and run our master's program. So if you have any questions about masters, feel free to put them in the chat or email us.
So cool. Okay, so I currently look after, Hunter and I currently look after the competition blog and the athlete program. And one of the questions we kind of always get to start is like, what's the difference between the two programs? And really, what's the difference between the competition program, the athlete program, and the master's program? And now what everyone needs to understand is that we all come from the same place. We all read from the same book. We've all learned from CJ, we've learned from each other, and then we've put our own takes in that. So every single program that we write, probably not so much the strength program, but the 3 programs I mentioned, they're all built around the same principles. So you'll always see some sort of activation, some sort of strength work, some sort of conditioning piece, and then probably like a finisher or accessory work. And now the difference between the programs is that, well, the athlete, starting with athlete, because that's kind of the top tier. That's what the elite athletes, the people who can, not so much the elite athletes, but those who can train multiple times per day or would like access to other forms of training, like you've got your strongman work, your extra conditioning, so you're running, rowing, mixed modal, and then you've got your extra gymnastics there. So the main session looks very similar to the competition program. So the primary session of athlete is very similar to the competition program. And then you have all those additional pieces that you can pick and choose from. You don't necessarily have to do the primary piece for that day. You might choose to do some of the additional work. If you can train multiple times per day, then you might be performing the primary session and then following up with some of the running work or the strongman work as a second session or a supplementary session throughout the week. The competition program, like I said, is just the primary program where normally you have your activation, then your strength work, some sort of a conditioning piece, and then your accessory work. And it's the same 90-minute piece that you would see on athlete. Do you want to go into the master's program? Because I think the master's program kind of follows the same guidelines, but then you offer obviously all the adjustments for the different age groups.
Yep. So same guidelines. I don't have my master's build up as heavy percentage wise as often as the Invictus Athlete or the competition program does. So they don't go as heavy as often. We do a lot more positional work, I believe, since that seems to be, Olympic weightlifting wasn't necessarily in a lot of the masters' backgrounds, not as much as maybe running or swimming, things like that. So we do a lot of positional work, focus on mobility, a lot more mobility and activation work in the daily program. And then a lot more gymnastic skills, or we just incorporate a lot of gymnastic skills, since again, that's not something that many masters have had a background in doing. So those things I would say are the main differences between the competition and Invictus athlete program.
Yeah, so yeah, that's kind of the basis of our programs. Like I said, that we all read from the same book, so you will see a lot of similarities. You might even see similar workouts. I tend to pull, like, I'll go back and forth and test the different communities with similar workouts, similar time domains. I'll use a lot of the accessory work. At the end of the day, like, I'm always learning. So if I feel like the competition group would benefit from the stuff that we did on the athlete program and vice versa, then I'll throw it in there. And I think Nicole as well, like, you'll pull some stuff as well that's worked for us, and then put it into the master's program as well. So, I mean, I've been really, really happy with how, considering COVID and how this year's been. Well, actually, I think results wise, for those who've been able to train, have been some of the best we've seen in like forever, solely because nobody else has anything to do but train and look after themselves. So I've seen loads of PRs, loads of progress on both the competition blog and Invictus Athlete. And I think you guys have seen the same, right?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
It's been great.
Yeah, so we've been really fortunate that, like, some people have been really fortunate they have had access to a gym throughout this, and they've really reaped the benefits. And for the competition blog, and we're kind of going to continue on that in the next cycle, with the primary focus on obviously building a solid strength foundation and conditioning base as we do. There will be more focus on gymnastic skills acquisition and volume accumulation, both within the conditioning pieces and as skill work. So I want to throw more into this, more into the conditioning pieces, so that we're getting you to practice higher skill movements when you're out of breath, when you're under fatigue. And then also incorporate stuff at the start of a session where you're a lot fresher, without a clock on, where you can kind of hone in on those skills and make sure that you're dialing in everything and you're not under pressure from the clock. So that's kind of the main change that you're going to see in the comp program. I know we threw some of that in last cycle. And then we'll continue to focus on interval-based conditioning along with more CrossFit style workouts. So that athletes who, like, there'll be competitions throughout the year. So you guys are always going to be ready for whatever comes around. In terms of the athlete program, so similar in terms of gymnastics, we're going to start incorporating a lot more higher skill gymnastic skills and the conditioning workouts, and also continue to incorporate the gymnastic additional work that we do for the athlete program. And then we're also going to have a lot more slower lifts. So you'll see that those who've done today's work, you've got bench press, you've got strict pressing, you've got deadlifts. So kind of incorporating those more powerlifting and more strict movements, so that you can continue to use them to transfer over to your Olympic lifting and obviously your CrossFit movements too. And then you will continue to incorporate the strongman work, the rowing work, the running work, the mixed modal work. With the mixed modal work, that's the piece that I really enjoy personally, just solely because I do a lot of it. And I highly encourage anyone who has the extra time to kind of have a look at them. Probably the mixed modal ones and the strongman ones are the I see the most benefit in, but are the least utilized within the community. So if you do have the extra time, then try to incorporate them in going forward into your training schedule. And you can even sub out the conditioning for that day if you feel it fits in well. Likewise, like if you feel that on a Friday you've not got time to fit in everything and you want to hit what was posted as an additional session on Tuesday, you can throw it in there. Just make smart decisions and just like look at the movements and make sure it fits into the training plan there. So that's kind of what we're going to look at, what the next cycle is going to look like for both athlete and competition. Nicole, how are you guys shaping up?
Actually, for our master's cycle, this next one, it's really similar to the competition cycle. What you went over for the competition, it's very similar to our masters. I have them doing more of complexes at the beginning of the week, so positional work, less percentage work, and then on Fridays they are putting that together for like full snatches, full clean and jerks. So more positional work at the beginning of the week, then lifting a little bit heavier at the end of the week. And strength endurance, so that'll be a focus of this cycle. So Tuesdays I'll see that where it's mainly just doing some strength work, but higher reps, less weight. They should be breathing pretty heavy throughout that session, even though there's no conditioning. If they're following the tempo and stuff, they should be working pretty hard. Like you said, for the competition, we're doing some more or adding in higher volume gymnastics work within conditioning. So we'll do that this cycle. Then the next cycle we'll add in more barbell cycling with higher gymnastics work and build on that to prepare for the Open in February, maybe, who knows?
Yeah, it's one of those things where just the way, obviously we don't know anything about next season in terms of CrossFit, but there's always competitions coming up. I mean, there's the Legends Masters competition. Those qualifiers just came out today. So I was writing some of those for them. So they're going to compete in December, I think. And then obviously we've got the Masters Fitness Collective. They've got the competition coming up next week. And then there's the 2 weeks. And then there's a bunch of other stuff that's going to come up throughout the year. So, I mean, even though there might be a off-season focus, we're still going to make sure that you're ready for whatever's going to come up during the next few months. There's so many competitions now that people prepare for. So we found that it's been harder to have hone in on certain areas, but we always give you guys the opportunity to do that, but then give you the tools in order to compete whenever those new competitions come around. So yeah, let's dive into these questions. So, Mr. Hunter,
Yes, sir.
I get my butt kicked daily from just the primary training session. Am I missing out by not doing the optional training work? And if I do decide to do an optional additional training session, can I just jump into it and just cherry pick what I think I need to work with, or should I stick with the same type of at the beginning of the training cycle and see the additional work through? So what he's saying is does he need to pick the running work, and does he have to do the running work every single week, or the mixed modal work? What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so session or cycle by cycle, try to find what you want to work on, and then stick through the cycle. A lot of the work's built on progressions. So where you start, hopefully there's progression to the finish. But if we bounce around too much, you're gonna, you'll improve slightly, but we're not really attacking that specific deal that's going on. And then just in general, if you're feeling like you have the energy to do that primary session you have every day, and you're concerned about missing out on all of those other options we put in there, but you don't have the energy to do them, that's okay. Watch your recovery, your sleep, your eating, your water. Make sure you're doing that right. And if you feel like you don't have the intensity to go do more volume for the sake of volume isn't going to get you the results you want. It's going to be the intensity. And that's something actually, Tino, you talk to the athletes in the house about all the time, is that they're just going in and doing a bunch of work, but they're kind of just dragging through it to check it off a list. That's not how you're going to get your results. So just, at the beginning of every cycle, kind of figure out, how much time and energy you're going to have, what you really want to focus on. So if running is something that you struggle with and you want to make that the additional work that you commit to, pick that and stick to it for the 8 to 12 weeks or however long we decide the cycle is going to be.
Yeah, I agree, Hunter. Especially with the running, rowing, gymnastics. I think there's something that you should stick with. The other pieces like the strongman mark or the mixed modal or the assault bike conditioning. The assault bike conditioning probably falls into the same category as the running and the rowing, but the mixed modal and the strongman mark, they're probably ones you can throw in. They don't necessarily, you can throw in like week to week. Like 1 week you might do the mixed modal, the next week you might do the strongman. But I definitely agree. Like if you are planning on focusing on your running, follow that running cycle. If you're planning on focusing on the rowing, follow that rowing cycle there as well. What is the best test of fitness of all time and why Sage at 20? So Sage at 20, CJ wrote that workout for Miss Sage Bergner. So Coach B's daughter. She's been a long time part of the community. She was a coach at Invictus. And then when she turned 20, CJ thought, hey, I'm going to write you a workout. And this is horribleness came up and it's stuck ever since then. So do you know when that was, Nicole? Was that like how is it? We don't want to give our age away. It must be like, it must be around about 2000, because I did the workout in 2010.
Yeah. It probably would have been like 2000, maybe 2009,
Yeah.
2008, 2009. No, she's not 30. I'm not sure. It was a long time.
So CJ likes to write workouts for either like athletes of the community or people who have been a long-term part of the community. Nicole's got a workout. I'm fortunate enough to have a workout. Hunter's not got one yet. Not a couple of years, Hunter.
Well, I've been here long enough.
Not a couple of years, Hunter. So he tends to write workouts based on what we were good at and what we were good at. So that's the one that he wrote for Sage. And then the best test of fitness of all time. I don't think you can really do that. Like in terms of CrossFit, like you can't. I don't think you can test fitness in one workout. It has to be like a group of like maybe 3, 4, or 5 workouts. But if I was to pick one workout that I feel like would show me a lot about an athlete, both physically and mentally, it is probably something like Sage. Like Solo is obviously like, test your capacity. It's a 20-minute workout. There is a medium to heavy weight thruster in there. There's a body weight work. There's burpees, a really simple movement, and then there's something a little bit more complex with a pull-up. And not so much complex now, but still something that is a gymnastic movement. I think that Sage is a great test. And then the mental side of it, because people always think that it comes down to the thrusters, but the most amount of time that's lost is the burpees. Like people go from doing the 20 burpees in a minute to taking 5, 6, 7, 8 seconds per burpee. So you're taking like 2 minutes to do those set of 20 burpees, and people are so concerned about the weight on the thruster. So I do think that Sage is a great test, but if you want to get a good broad test, then it'll have to include different energy systems and time domains there.
Tino, if you had to pick a workout that wasn't Sage, because I think maybe Nicole as well, we'd all agree that it's a fantastic test. What's the first one that at least popped into your head? Like, I had to pick a different workout. What do I think it might be?
Honestly, like even another workout that I really, really like is Jackie. Like, I think Jackie's a great workout too, because like that's capacity though. That's just like, hey, like you're going to get on this row, you're going to row really hard, you're going to do a bunch of unbroken thrusters, and then you need to hang on for 30 pull-ups. And like, I really like Jackie. Super simple, and it's a great test, and it was great to see it at regionals as well. Like those times were like phenomenally fast. What would you say?
I would agree with both the things that you said. The first one I thought of was the CrossFit Games first event, 2019. It was the 4 rounds of rope climb, snatches, and running.
Okay, yeah.
2018 maybe. I don't know which games it was.
Was that not the last games, right?
Well, it might have been the most recent one.
Yeah, most recent games.
But that that falls in line with Sage. It's got it's got a lot of gymnastics, has some higher weights that take some skill, and it's got some decent aerobic work for that running you need to be fast.
Do you know what really surprised me about that workout is that obviously the rope climbs became an issue with a lot of people, but like I remember watching Patrick Vellner fail that overhead squat, and I was like, geez, was like, I didn't realize that those overhead squats were going to be so challenging for people, which is really, really cool. So that was a good workout. Nicole.
I think any like the old workout Kenny that Michelle or that CJ wrote for Michelle Kenny, run, deadlift, muscle up, or Holta. I think that's run, deadlift, handstand walk, something with somewhat of a heavy lift, some type of aerobic test, and a higher skill.
Yeah,
that's a good workout. Nicole, do you recommend a full rest day on Thursday, or is it some light cardio better?
I think it totally depends on the athlete. I get this a lot, especially for masters who often think more is better, but you need to personally know how well you recover. Some people really enjoy doing some light conditioning or, light conditioning with some mobilizing, and others need a full rest day. So I think it just depends on your circumstances. One, like, somebody who's got a full-time job and a family, it may be, maybe they can handle going in and doing some work, but it's going to stress them out lifestyle wise. So I think it just depends on each person and how they feel. But I do recommend at least one full rest day where you're not in the gym, have at least one full rest day. And then, for Thursdays, you can just see how you feel. If you wake up feeling really good and energized, doing some light work would be great, or not. I think it just really depends on each person, but don't feel like you have to do some type of work because it's an active recovery day. It could be a full rest day for you.
Yeah. Even if it's a full rest day, like, it doesn't mean that you can't like go out and go for a walk or take the dog out,
Sure.
take your kids out, take cat out, whatever. Just go out for a walk. Like I like to do like 2 to 3 10-minute walks a day. Not only to move, but especially in the nature of what we do, it's like you're sitting at a computer all day, you get so into what you're doing, and like I need to get up and move around a little bit, and I always come back and I'm more productive. So even if you're not working out, you can still go for those walks and stuff. Mr. Hunter, when does it make sense to go the Athlete Plus route? Athlete instead of competition, in brackets. So when does it make sense to go the Athlete Plus route?
Personalized program. So, if you feel confident in what you're doing, getting your schedule in, picking your workouts, attacking your weaknesses, whatever it is, you feel great doing it, then what program you're on is fantastic. If you're looking for that little extra bit of feedback where you kind of have either the email or phone number and you're going back and forth consistently, and you want someone to help adjust your week, really set that schedule for you and keep you accountable, that's really where I see the big benefit of Athlete Plus. It's based off the athlete program. You're not going to get many differences in the program that you're getting, the options, but it's that person to hold you accountable, give you that extra feedback, and make sure that you're on a path moving forward. Sometimes you can be, doing your workouts and then you look back and you're like, I really just totally ignored this aspect of my training this whole time. So that's where Nicole, Tino, and myself come in with Athlete Plus and really make sure that we're getting a well-rounded approach to your training.
Yeah, you're always going to see the benefit in a more individualized program, but I think the biggest factor is, like you said, the accountability part. Like whether you're an athlete or whether you're just a general fitness enthusiast, like coaches need coaches, and the majority of people just need that accountability and someone to like help hold themselves to that higher standard. But yeah, Athlete Plus is a really good option. It's an affordable option. You still get to be involved in the community, but then you get that one-to-one connection with one of us, which is awesome. Nicole, as a 56-year-old masters athlete, how do I select the best weight for workouts?
I actually get this question a lot, especially for people who have moved from that 50 to 54 to the 55 plus category, because there's a pretty big distinction made shifting from into that older age division with weights used and the gymnastics. So, I mean, people are going to probably hate my answers because it all depends. It depends on the person. But say I'm 56 and I'm really, really strong with chest to bar pull-ups. Well, oftentimes the scaling is just regular, or the progression for the 55 plus is regular pull-ups. Upgrade the workout and do chest to bar pull-ups if that's what the younger age division's doing, and you know your body can handle it, and you're really proficient with that movement. You may not be as proficient with the weights, so stay with your 55 plus weights. And, you know, or it could be vice versa. Maybe you're very strong and can handle barbell cycling proficiently, the weights at the 50 to 54 division, but gymnastics, maybe not so much. So you're trying to look for the stimulus of the workout so that you can maintain what the stimulus of the workout should be, while not upgrading it too much or downgrading it so much where you're going to fly through a piece that should be taking 20 minutes and you're getting done in 9 minutes. So it depends. You can, always ask if you're following the master's program, you can always ask how you should adjust for that age division and that category. But I don't think just because you're in that specific age division, you have to follow the specific rep scheme or the movements, especially if you've been doing CrossFit for a long time. It's gonna change. Just like we have athletes who are really strong with strict handstand push-ups at deficit in a workout, when that might not be written, because we know that they're really good at it and they can have a bit more of a challenge in the workout. I don't recommend you do it all the time, but you can definitely play around with it.
I need help making a nutrition plan for myself because I want to compete at games. So whenever I have an athlete come to me for nutrition advice, like I'll always get them to send me a food log, and then I'll have a look at their food log and I'll make some recommendations. But really, like personally, when it comes to injury or nutrition, always advice, but I'm not an expert on them. And I'll usually point them in the direction of someone who I know that could give them a way better program or be able to treat them. So in terms of nutrition, always Jen Ryan. Jen Ryan's a stud Masters athlete. We'll be competing next week at the Masters Fitness Collective. She does the majority of the nutrition for our in-house clients and of a lot of our online clients. And my advice to you, if you want something catered to your needs, your specific macros, and whether you have any allergies, training times, fueling around competition, then you should definitely look into getting a nutrition coach. And Jen Ryan is someone who springs to mind. There's other people out there, but Jen's someone that we highly recommend there. So when you're making a specific nutrition plan, I think it's really beneficial to get someone who knows. And I know Hunter's kind of played with different things. You've worked with a couple of different people as well. So you've seen the benefits in having someone specifically tell you stuff instead of trying to make up your own macros.
Yeah, on my personal experience with it, well, one, it was have someone keep me accountable. It's just nice, if you don't realize it, how good it is to have that check-in and someone make the plan for you, and you just got to follow. You don't think that much, you just follow it. I'm going to kind of echo what Tino said about Jen Ryan. That's who a lot of my one-on-one athletes work with, is with Jen. And this was even before she was really with Invictus. She just provides a fantastic service. And then the addition to that is having a nutrition coach. You'll learn a lot. Me and Tino and Nicole will help with things up to a certain point that we realize is kind of out of the scope of what we can provide compared to an actual person that's professional in that area. So what you can learn just on how many macros are generally in this amount of food or calories or whatever it is, it raises that awareness and really helps long-term benefits, not just training for the games in the next however many months or years.
I can only do 6 to 7 ring muscle ups for my max effort Should I scale the reps or the movement in workouts with high volume or muscle up reps? Hunter.
Yeah. You know, and I want to avoid it depends answers, but that one 100% it depends. Just like Nicole was trying to avoid saying that. You know, if the skill of a muscle up is tough for you, we don't want you standing there just swinging around for minutes at a time trying to get those muscle ups. If you have energy, you just can't do it. That's when you need to take kind of a step back, either before or after the workout, and really spend time dialing in your technique. If it is your technique looks fantastic and you just don't have the strength, then kind of the same thing. Work on that pulling strength and a little bit more technique. But when it comes to reps and the workouts, you don't need to be glued to the RX number that you always see. Kind of like what Nicole was talking about, you know, with handstand push-ups. Sometimes people go up or down. They modify for themselves. I think, Tino, you always refer to as self-regulating, auto-regulating. But you know, with the numbers, your progression doesn't always have to be, okay, I grinded through these 8 reps, and so a few months later, hopefully I do this 8 reps faster. Maybe it's you scaled it down to a certain number that was appropriate for you, what you think you can manage well. And then in the future, when you retest the workout, maybe you just bump it up to 2 reps and you try to match your time as opposed to staying low on the reps and then beating your time. So it's just finding out what kind of goal is going to work best for what you're working on is kind of where I would leave that at. Nicole or Tino, do you guys have a thought on that as well?
If it's in this case of like 67 ring muscle ups, and I've said it a few times on the videos for an Invictus athlete, is that, like, for example, if the workout is like a 20-minute AMRAP and it starts with 10 muscle ups, I would say like a good way to kind of gauge that workout would be like, if that first 10 muscle ups is going to take you more than 3 sets, then I'd adjust those reps. Or I'd say that if it was like a smaller set, like maybe 5 reps, I would say like if you can't do the first round unbroken, then adjust those reps. So like I kind of like go based on what the workout's intention is. But yeah, like I agree with everything that Hunter said.
But if you're adjusting the reps, you know, to add on to that, it doesn't mean like knock down the reps and then don't work on this in the future. Not, you know, bring down those reps and then find the time to actually, you know, put some mental work into what the issue is that's holding you back. You know, just knocking on the reps and hoping that, you know, eventually you'll get up to RX without putting the time in.
Yeah, you like do that work outside of the conditioning though. Like make sure your skill work is not without a clock, because you're just going to be banging your head off a wall if you're trying to do that in workouts.
Yeah.
As a master of 62, how do I define overtraining?
So that is something that overtraining is something that everybody should be aware of, regardless of the age. And, you know, there's like different apps and watches that people can purchase that will give you, you know, your strain or how the coverage you are, which is helpful. But my favorite thing to go by is by feel. And there are a couple signs that people can look for to see if they are overtraining. So a couple things that I think just in general you should look at with yourself is, has my sleep been negatively affected lately with training? Can I not sleep? Am I tossing and turning at night? Am I feeling irritable or extra emotional during training? Or am I persistently being sore? Like I'm not able to recover at all from my training sessions where I used to be able to recover. I wouldn't be so sore for so long. When you wake up in the morning, am I excited to train and work out, or am I dreading my training session? And then just looking at overall moodiness, if you are feeling a little more irritable, that could be a sign of overtraining. So, you know, you can go through kind of a checklist and see, you know, how am I doing with those things? And if you feel like maybe I am overtraining a bit, then I like to tell people just get outside of the gym. Take a couple days, get outside of the gym. Do not go in. Don't feel guilty about not training. Can also be a sign of overtraining. Don't feel so guilty. Get outside and then go back in and see how you're recovering. And if it persists, then you need to talk to your coach about it, because some things may need to train with training, or there might be some hormonal imbalances in some of our older athletes. There may need to, actually younger athletes as well, some hormonal things that also need to be addressed. But that would be just a general checklist to look at if you are feeling overtrained or wanting to monitor how your recovery is.
Why does the fitness program focus so much on legs every day? CJ's fault. No, well,
You like strong legs.
he likes kettlebell swings and he likes lunges. So the beauty of training lower body most days is that it recovers faster. You tend to find that when you do a lot of volume upper body, it takes a little bit longer to recover. So you tend to see a lot more lower body work than you will do upper body work, just from a recovery aspect. And everyone likes nice legs and butts. Like, so, I mean, like this, there's nothing wrong with having strong legs. So as well, like there's science behind, like you get a lot more muscle growth, like all round body, when you do lower body work. But the majority of it is that you can repeatedly do, you can do back-to-back days of maybe like more like anterior loading and then posterior loading the next day and still be able to recover. But if we were to give you a lot of pressing one day, a lot of pulling, then you're likely to be really, really sore. And then it kind of opens up cans of worms in terms of injury and stuff. So that's one of the reasons why that we tend to do a lot more lower body work as well. On competition, I see low percentages on lifting. Do we emphasize on gymnastics? So I'm not. So firstly, like the new like any cycle that we start, it's going to be a progression. So you're always going to start with lower percentages to work perfect positions, and you should be dialing that in throughout the cycle. But you'll see them gradually increase throughout the cycle. So that's the reason why the percentages tend to start low there. It does not mean that you add more in. It does not mean that you increase the percentages. We always say, like, trust the process and follow the program. So that's the reason why the percentages are normally a little bit lower on the lifting work that we do at the start of the cycle. But we promise that you will get to go a little bit heavier as the cycle progresses there. The amount of cardio and strength work if I'm focusing on strength.
Sorry, I'm just reading it because I couldn't hear you for a second.
Yeah, can you repeat that, Tino?
How should I balance the amount of cardio and strength work if I'm focusing on strength?
You know, it's hard to take a step back from working on everything, being CrossFitters, especially when it comes to strength. People just are really uncomfortable, taking a step back on their conditioning. But with your cardio, what a lot of people have found benefit, and just kind of general science, is some of that low heart rate, longer conditioning still allows for some good aerobic benefits. When you get back into your CrossFit, without really breaking down the body too much and being this high impact deal that inhibits recovery or inhibits recovery for strength. So focusing on strength, adding in some just monostructural work is what I mean, really. So you can do some slow running or some rowing, maybe some bike intervals, something that's not going to be breaking down the legs and really making the muscles sore the next day, so that you can recover on strength, have the aerobic base. And then when you get back into CrossFit, typically you're always going to have that, like, you kind of lost a little bit of that high intensity edge. So there's like a week to 3 weeks of really kind of getting it back and being able to push through that, like, burn or whatever you have going on. But, just finding a healthy balance of conditioning where you still feel like you can recover fully for strength is where you get fantastic results. That's something that, I don't know if he's on this call right now, but one of our athletes and coaches, Ricky Moore, always did over the winter. He went to games a couple times with our team and has been training with us forever. And he would just not do CrossFit for a few months. And he would just lift really heavy, and he would do his slow runs on the beach. If you want to run on the beach, move to Invictus. And he would actually then get to the open. He'd do like 2 months of CrossFit hard training before it, and then just smoke it because he got super strong and his aerobic base was still really high, so it was easy to come back, to his CrossFit shape quickly.
Yeah, I think it's definitely like important to like take a step back from conditioning if you want to get stronger, and the low impact stuff. So tend to like stay clear of something like running and stick more to either like running on a beach is fine, but the assault bike, the bike erg, or something that's kind of more low impact on your joints. And just to like follow up, like Hunter does offer an 8-week strength program, which we've seen a lot of athletes like jump into. Like I've got a lot of people that follow the competition blog and athlete blog, and they'll go and do one of Hunter's 8-week strength programs and then come back and then be crushing it. It'll take them maybe 1 or 2 weeks to get back into it, but they get back into it pretty quickly. And when's the next one coming up for that, Hunter?
We actually start this Monday. We started.
Okay.
So same date as everyone else. But yeah, I guess to hop on that as well, the first cycle we did of the whole shutdown during COVID was one of the best results we got in a few cycles, or a lot of cycles, and that was primarily because all people had was like jogging and a barbell, and so they were like, let's get strong. So what I encourage people to do is just lift. Give me 8 weeks, just lift, and results were incredible. Obviously the programs or the cycles change each time, but it all came down to people just doing less volume meant more strength gains.
Yeah. There's this perception that you just have to hammer volume all the time, but really, like I've seen so many people do it when they take a step. The hardest part's like making the commitment to take a step back, and then once they make that commitment, and they commit to the program, like the 8-week strength program, they're like, oh, like I'm so much stronger. We're like, well, yeah, like you're able to recover. You're not hammering yourself every single day. Sorry, Nicole, what were you gonna say?
Oh, I was just gonna say, agree with you guys, and then give an example. Carl, he'll be competing at Masters Fitness Collective next weekend. Who he made it to games 60 plus in the 60 plus age division, and he did the 8-week strength program the last cycle, and he's a strong guy. Made it to games. This is his second, maybe third year making it to games. And he just followed the strength program and did heart rate training in the morning and put massive PRs on all of his lifts. And so it goes to show, like, if that is a goal of yours to get stronger, then take the 8 weeks to really focus on that. And you'll be surprised by how well-rounded you become coming out of that, even if you're not doing classic CrossFit during those 8 weeks.
I would say even some of it goes back to what Nicole was saying with overtraining. Whether it's strength or not, if you feel like your results just aren't moving as fast as you want them to be, sometimes our tendency is to push harder. When even if it's just conditioning you want to be better, maybe you need to dial it back a little bit, and you'll actually perform better doing that.
You need to recover as hard as you train. It's just as important, and we see it across the board. Unfortunately, when you look at all the top athletes, you see the workouts that they're posting, and people tend to think that that's what they should be doing, but they forget that a lot of these athletes' backgrounds where they've spent like years just getting strong, and then obviously they come in and they start conditioning and doing gymnastics work or vice versa, and they already have that strength base, and people just presume, like I need to do 4 metcons a day to get stronger. They're like, no, this guy's background, like he had a 400-pound clean and jerk and was snatching like 300 plus pounds. Like he has a good strength background before he came in here. So final question, is it important to complete the training in sequence? Short answer, yes, it is. So we write things in order for a reason. And normally, it obviously will depend on the athlete, but the focus normally, as we said at the beginning, would always start with some sort of primer and then your strength work, followed by conditioning and then accessory work. Now, caveat would be like, it also depends on the athletes that we're coaching as well. So I've been fortunate. The majority of CrossFitters need to focus on strength, hence the reason why that's always at the front of the program. But we do stumble across some athletes like Jared Enderton someone like Jeff Evans, who were like all these guys who were just ridiculously strong. What I tended to do was like either if I did have them lift, it would be as a second session, or it would be after the conditioning, and it would just be like touching a barbell or just building up to something heavy, but nothing major. So it's always, the program's always written with a focus behind like what is the goal for this program, and also in terms of complexity as well. And we don't want to give you a bunch of upper body work and then ask you to go and snatch. That's not going to end well. Okay, so yes, please try and follow the program in order as much as possible. And even if that means, like, for example, the competition program where you're not got enough time to do it all in one session and you're having to split it. So I'd recommend do the activation, do the strength work, and maybe even do the accessory work, and then leave the conditioning to a second session there. So that's kind of the way that we write it, is the way it should be followed. And that also goes for the order of the workouts. So the workouts are written, so Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, rest day, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. That's also written for a reason as well. And we tend to get some people, it's like, hey, like I can't train on a Wednesday, I'm going to hit Wednesday session on a Thursday. I'm like that's okay, but like normally the way our program is, I'll tend to do them like a heavy, like if we're deadlifting, we'll tend to do it the day before a rest day, or if we're doing like a hard conditioning piece, we'll tend to do it the day before a rest day. So it means that you hit that as your final day, and then you have your rest day afterwards, so you're able to recover. But some people are like, I'm going to make up that on Thursday, and then they're deadlifting heavy on Thursday, then they've got clean and jerks and snatches on Friday, and you're like, my clean and jerks like sucked. I'm like, well, duh, you just like kind of hit like a heavy double on your deadlift yesterday. So like we're not able to adjust your program specifically. So it's all about making smart decisions if that is the case. So hence the reason why it's written in a certain order. So there is a method to the madness. So try and follow it in order as much as possible. So yeah, you guys got anything else that you want to add? Any plugs? Anything that's coming up?
I was just going to say, if people watch this or have more questions, then just shoot them over to info@invictusathlete.com, and we'll get them to the proper coach, and they can respond. And yes, people can still jump into the 8-week strength program for sure.
Yeah, you guys, if you wanted to hop on the 8-week strength program, we'd like to start everyone at the same time, but that always doesn't happen. So that's why we always have a break in between 1 or 2 weeks between each cycle. So if you're ready to hop on, you'll sign up. I'll email you, find out which Monday you want to start on, and I'll set your calendar to that date.
Sure. Anything else I know you want to add?
No, I think that's it.
Yeah, like Nicole said, like any questions that you do have, we're here to help. You can shoot me a message on Instagram or on Messenger, or just post it on the blog if you are following one of our programs. We'll be more than happy to help. But yeah, excited for the upcoming cycle. It's going to be another good one. It's been a solid first few days so far. I know a lot of you are feeling your legs a little bit, but your body will adapt. It's always kind of shock the body. And the first couple of weeks are always hard, and then your body should adapt. If they're not adapting, then please shoot me a message and we can kind of take a look at other things that might be affecting your workout. But yeah, thanks very much for your time, and we look forward to seeing some good results on this current cycle.
All right, thanks, guys.
Bye, guys.
John.